Season 5 of Dragula is done, and it's proven to be more crazy, spooky, and like Drag Race than ever before. I'm Grady,
I'm Zach.
and this is Highlights. So we're breaking down season 5 today. We're doing things a little bit differently, but for those who have not finished season 5, this is your one and only spoiler warning, because we're gonna dive right into some stuff. So if you haven't finished the season, please exit this video.
And come back when you're done.
Yeah, please come back. We don't get a lot of views.
Please come back.
Yeah, please come
For the
back.
love of God.
We won't survive. Um, so we're doing things a little bit differently this season. So we started recording like we usually do throughout the season. And then it just wasn't working, y'all. So there's a few lost episodes of highlights out there somewhere in the ether, which is
They'll
fine.
be released on the special edition 4K DVD.
Exactly. um yeah, it just wasn't working. So now I think highlights is just going to be evolving more like a highlights of the season type of show instead of highlights of each episode type of show. That way we can release it however we need to, make things a little more generalized and let the conversation flow a little more naturally than we typically do. Um, Also, Charisse is not with us. Charisse left the show for personal reasons, which is totally fine. We wish her well, and the door is always open. And especially since the show is evolving, she might come back every once in a while. That's totally fine. But yeah, so for right now, it's going to be me and Zach only. We're going to roll through this, um, like we normally do. It's just we won't have Charisse there, which is really sad, but we miss her a lot. But um, we also
Maybe
respect.
this recording schedule worked better for her.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see as things roll out, and now that she's had a break and stuff, we'll see. The door is always open. She's always welcome to hop on. And we still see her. She still watches with us and all of that good stuff. So it's not like she's disappeared or anything like that. We
Yeah,
see her
she's not
all the
dead.
time. Yeah, we see her all the time. She's
Still
fine.
living.
you know. So yeah. So there's that. Um, I think that covers all the major changes we're doing for the most part. And as a result, highlights will be a little more spread out as we release it throughout the year. It'll balance things on this channel a little bit. So, um, you know, big changes, but exciting ones, I think. I think it'll work better overall.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, first, let's just dive right in. So the season's over. We have a winner, right? So congratulations, New Huru X. Yes. See.
as Orgotic would say.
Yeah. There's a lot to talk about, and we're gonna let kind of visuals from the season just kind of flow if you're watching us on YouTube. Everything from the season is just gonna kind of cycle on through, including the scoreboard, which we're gonna talk about in a second. I want to dive straight into that as soon as possible to get it kind of out of the way. And kind of break down ever so briefly how the whole season kind of went as a whole. Yeah. Anything else before we dive right in?
No, let's do it.
Let me actually find the scoreboard on here so we can cover that. And then I'm
I
gonna
forgot about that Blackberry Woods look.
Yeah, yep. Lots and lots of fun stuff to talk about.
As anaphylactic.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's get right into the scoreboard. So the scoreboard's gonna look a little different. It's gonna cover the entire season. I also have it broken down to who the front runners were episode to episode as track records changed and things like that. So starting off with some challenge wins. So episode 1, Terror in the Woods, which was the Terror in the Woods look. They just kind of had to make a look and perform it on the floor show. That went to Neohudu X. She started winning challenges right out the gate. And this is where I think she was probably a clear front runner and probably the clear
Mhm.
winner from the get-go. Children of the Can, that's the trash can children looks. That was a fun episode.
Or Garbage Pail Kids for anyone who can say it.
Exactly. That went to Throb Zombie. Controversially, I still don't think I agree with that, but
Yeah, it was
yeah.
debatable.
Ghosts of the Gatehouse, which was their haunted hotel challenge. They had to do a look and a lip sync. That went to JK. We'll talk about
Absolutely not.
JK. Yeah.
No.
Monsters of Rock Part 1. So Part 1 was just designing Monsters of Rock looks. That went to Fantasia Royale Gaga. We're going to talk a lot about her too, I think, in a little bit.
Her ears gonna be ringing.
Ding, 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 ding. Monsters of Rock Part 2, which was the actual Rock Bond challenge. No. Rock bands. So that went to Orgotic. So his band won, and then they declared him as the individual winner for leading so well in the challenge. And he got his vocals on the single that the Boulets released for
Oh,
them.
that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I already forgot the name of it. Doesn't matter.
I think
Pleasure
it was
Planet
Gods of
X.
Death.
Yes. Oh, look at you. Good memory.
Took notes.
Yep. I have a bad headache today, so I'm going to add that to my list of symptoms. Memory loss. Things are deteriorating. Yeah.
Becoming quite the list.
Yeah. Pleasure Planet X, that was an advertisement challenge,
It's
which
rough.
was, yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about it. That went to Blackberry. The Blacklight Haunted House, which was they had to do transforming blacklight looks, and that went to Neohudu X. Drag Kaiju, which they had to create kaijus a la Godzilla and etc. And that went to Orgotic. And that was pretty much it. Because then we had the reunion, and then obviously the grand finale, which of course is when Neohudu X took it home. So
And killed the other contestants.
good for her. Completely slaughtered. I'm really feeling an accent today, I guess. I don't know what's happening.
It's all right. Just roll with it.
It's part of my, it's like when people come out of comas and speak Spanish and shit. It's like yeah, I don't know what's going on. So top four, so front runners as they emerged and their track records evolved over the course of the season. So as of episode 1, it was basically just Neohudu X. Everybody else was pretty much tied. Obviously, there was not a lot of differentiation. Episode 2, remember, Throb Zombie took home that win, so put her on par with Neohudu. Everybody else was still pretty much the same. Episode 3, JK started making their way to the front. Very interesting. Not quite as much as Neohudu and Throb, but they're up there. As of episode 4, so almost halfway through the season, top 4 were Neohudu, Throb, Fantasia, and JK. JK was just kind of like hanging out there for a little bit.
Pissing everybody off.
JK liked the personality. It was very polar in this conversation. In this season. What is happening to me?
Are you having a stroke?
Are my neurons?
Do you smell toast?
Yes. Do I? No. Had to be sure.
Imagine all the views
Of my death. Thank you.
Yeah. The thumbnail, just I had a stroke on camera.
Yeah. Imagine how Edgar Allan Poe that would be. Like, oh, I'm finally gonna make it as I'm dying. No. No. So JK was always either pretty much in the bottom or was in the top. Like it was kind of weird for a while there.
Yeah.
Also controversially, I think. As of episode 5, Throb actually took it home. This is when Neohudu X about halfway started stumbling a little bit. So
Hmm.
Throb emerged as the front runner, which makes things very interesting when we start talking about the final four and the finale and how things shook out. JK really climbed up the ladder. JK almost made it, man. And then of course Fantasia was still hanging out there. As of episode 6, Throb still hung strong. Blackberry began emerging. Nihuru was trying to make her way back up, and Fantasia was still hanging out. As of episode 7, Nihuru X went straight back to the top, reclaiming the throne. Throb just underneath her. I think this is when they started kind of battling as front runners. And then Blackberry and Fantasia. This is where things get interesting. You notice so who's not on here at all is Orgotic,
Hmm.
which is interesting because it was such a strong presence the whole season. But as of episode 8, that's when Orgotic finally makes an appearance as a front runner. Mainly because this is where Fantasia fell and then eventually got eliminated this particular episode. And that determined our top 4. So this is track record, how everything went episode to episode. In case you care about these numbers, it's a
Oh
lot to
yeah,
look
all
at.
those other people who weren't on the board.
Yeah. All those other
They
ones
were
that were
there
there.
too.
They were. So then for final ranking, so how everything shook out after everything was said and done, of course, Nihuru X won. Next drag super monster, whatever the hell that means. And then Throb, Orgotic, and Blackberry all tying for second as runner-ups. Fifth place, Fantasia Royale Gaga. Sixth place, Cynthia Doll. Seventh, JK. Eighth, Anaphylactic. Ninth, Jarvis Hammer. 10th, Satana. And 11th, Onyx on Dix. Remember her?
Looks so good in the reunion episode. I completely forgot who she was. And I was like, damn,
Yeah.
that's such a fierce look. Who
Like,
is
who's
that?
that?
Yeah.
I think we'll
Special
see
special
Onyx.
guest.
Yeah, I think we'll see Onyx again. And they kind of hinted at that at the reunion.
Hmm.
Because I think the Boulets actually really do like Onyx a lot. So, and the Boulets like to bring people back and force them upon us. So,
They sure do.
yeah. And then of
They will
course
not be
everybody
denied.
never, never, never. Everybody we started with, everybody we have left, and how things kind of slowly faded out as everybody got murdered. um, so it's an interesting season. Yeah. Interesting track
Yeah, it was pretty
record,
interesting.
interesting ebb and flow. The one big thing, especially with the scoreboard, is Orgotic for me, because Orgotic, looking at it, really did worse than I actually thought he was doing throughout the
Yeah,
competition.
as we were watching it, I thought he was like a front runner the whole time,
Yeah,
but
that's how it
looking
feels.
at the scoreboard, it didn't. Maybe
Yeah.
just because even if he didn't win, they scored high
Yeah.
each round.
And
It wasn't,
and
they
was at
weren't like
least
ever
safe.
clearly, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, very
Whereas everyone else,
interesting.
except for maybe Throb and Yahoo, really ebbed and flowed. Like it was
Yeah.
bottom top, bottom top.
Yeah. Very interesting. Okay, so that's how everything shook out. So now it's kind of just in general for the season as a whole. Let's talk about floor shows. So we went over some of the challenges. Um, do any floor shows stand out to you? Anything that you liked or didn't like for floor shows? I
I
think I have
liked
some.
I liked the concepts of all the floor shows. I
Hmm.
didn't necessarily have, I guess I was a little disappointed by what they actually brought given the prompt they were given. Like
Yeah,
I felt like the Ghosts of the Gatehouse would have been a really, really cool and had a lot of potential, but a lot of people just kind of fell flat for me, like as a whole for the season when it came to bringing looks with the
yeah,
prompts they were given.
yeah. Um, I think this season was interesting in that it seems like they're trying new things with the challenges and stuff, which is great.
Mhm.
But then things become less of a floor show and more of a challenge. like we would see like
Right.
on Drag Race.
And
Um,
that other program.
exactly. Dragula started off as a club competition, like in the club,
Hmm.
um, where floor shows were kind of the only thing you could do, and obviously now that's broadened because of TV and also now a bigger budget that they get every season. Um, so it's interesting to see these floor shows, quote unquote, evolve a little bit. I think some low points for me were, I think I wasn't super happy with the Garbage Pail Kids.
No, and that was such a great opportunity.
Yeah, didn't love that.
Mm-mm.
Um, the advertising challenge also.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know what it is. Like I feel like each episode had a really cool idea, but no one was just like, wow, that's amazing. That totally hits it for me. You know?
No, yeah. And I think the advertising challenge is a good example of how I think it struggles with the floor show format because then they had to kind of just stand there and do like a commercial, almost like an elevator
Right.
pitch, which was weird. Where I probably would have rather them do their looks and maybe film a commercial
Yeah.
or do something. You know what I mean? Like it was just kind of awkward.
Hmm.
Like they just kind of took turn like a class presentation.
Yeah, because things like that work better when you're able to prepare a script and really kind of edit it to make it look a lot nicer than a live performance.
Yeah, it was weird. So there were commercials between they were really weren't commercials. Like it was weird. Um,
Yeah, it was like they had to like go over it really was like a class presentation, like you said. It was like
yeah,
this is the assignment, and you need to give an oral presentation on why your your sex advertisement is an intergalactic success and no one else's is. It was weird.
exactly. Exactly. Um, yeah. So I don't know. I did really like certain ones. Like I really like the Terror in the Woods. I think that's a great concept that works as a floor show. It feels very Dracula.
Yes,
Um,
yeah, that was a pretty decent one.
stuff like that. Um, I really loved the idea of a kaiju challenge
Hmm.
and as
And
a
that
floor
seemed very
show.
Dragula too. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, and it does work as a floor show if you take out the little cardboard city or whatever the hell they had out there.
yeah, that
Um,
was, they
I
tried.
think it's clear that some people don't know what a kaiju is, but you know, BlackBerry. Um,
Which
which
is
to be
funny because didn't she reference Mothra in what she was doing? So she
hmm
must know what they're supposed to kind of be based on look like.
yeah, I guess BlackBerry just really has one mode of being.
Yeah, and they ate it up all season. It fucking
I love I mean, we'll talk about BlackBerry too. I love
yeah,
BlackBerry,
we'll get there.
but I mean that was one challenge where I think they could have done something different. To be fair, I mean Mothra as a kaiju is kind of the more like cute one, especially in the older
Yeah, if
films,
you had to
right?
pick a glamorous kaiju, it'd be Mothra.
Yeah. And I
You know who
100%.
did? You know, you know who did bring some really kind of sickening looks for me throughout the season, and I'm kind of sad they didn't do much better with Cynthia Doll.
I loved Cynthia Doll.
Yes. And their concepts for the floor shows were really cool. Like looking back at the Terror in the Woods, that mushroom getup, I thought
Yeah.
that was really cool.
Yeah.
And it was really different because a lot of people had a kind of a narrow scope on what Terror in the Woods is going to look like.
Uh-huh.
I thought that was fierce. She ate.
Yeah. I loved it. I love Cynthia Doll. I'm really worried about her health, but I love
Especially after seeing their audition video.
yeah, which was not a surprise. Like that was exactly how I pictured Cynthia Doll lives 100%. But I love that
Yes,
she
to have
lives
it
leans
confirmed
into
was a
that.
little alarming.
Like, oh no.
It's like it's not a wink wink nudge nudge. It's very this is what it is, girl. Buckle up.
um, which is and kind of impressive. I mean, to be like that, but also be so professional is really impressive,
Yeah.
actually.
High functioning. Love that.
Very high functioning. Yeah. Uh, I mean, we'll see. Let's keep an eye on Cynthia
Yeah.
Melvin.
Hopefully she comes back.
Exactly. Has anyone called her? Uh,
Is
you
someone
know,
checking on her?
yeah, she's someone that I imagine like has a different phone number like all the time.
Really hard
It's
to track down. Have
always
to like hire a
disconnected.
PI.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Many addresses. Yeah.
I love that for her.
Yeah. I loved Cynthia though. She was a star for all the wrong reasons, but I loved her anyway. Um, I did. So I'm gonna back up Anaphylactic a little bit because I actually really enjoyed Anaphylactic.
I did too. I felt like anaphylactic was, you know how you're talking about they're trying to do some things that are a lot more like Drag Race.
Hmm.
I feel like anaphylactic is also one of those things that's a lot more like Drag Race and
Yeah.
less Dragula.
Yeah.
But I
Totally.
appreciated her for that. It was it was kind of like having like when we had Jay Jolie
Hmm.
last time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was kind of nice. It was almost like a different world, but they were trying to branch out, which was cool.
Yeah. I completely agree. We talked a little bit about Onyx. And
Oh
I
yeah,
do
she was
really
there.
again, I do think we'll see Onyx again. I think that's what they strongly hinted at. And I kind of hope that we do because the reunion, I mean, you're right. I mean, I was like, what did we miss out on?
Yeah, that was sick. Like that whole like chains and the scout thing. Like, oh my God, I
Uh-huh.
was so impressed with that. I thought that was awesome. And
Yeah.
it was like spooky pretty. Like I was into
Yeah.
it.
Instead, we had JK for a good bulk of the season. And
Don't
I
even get me
didn't,
started.
I was not a big fan of JK. Even like, even we just talk about the looks, was not a
And
big
how they
fan.
were like everybody else's. Yeah.
Yeah. And basic and just not, I mean, JK is probably a wonderful performer. That's great for JK. Um, I just felt didn't really match like kind of the level where everybody else was at, and I thought it was just not surprising. It's a TV show. I know why JK is around, but
Hmm.
but
But the frustrating part about that, like when you're reminded it's just a TV show, is that it's a TV show costuming as a competition.
yeah,
So, like, the further and further you go, there's less and less reason as to why this person should legitimately be there, especially when they
yeah,
don't actually get critique for their lack of, you know, expertise in what they're doing compared to everyone else. And that's where I have an issue with like the Boulets judging, which like we'll talk about later.
yeah. Was that
Yes,
it?
sorry.
End of end of
And
opinion.
yeah, to be continued at a later date.
Yeah, I was expecting you to be like, but like
Yeah,
no,
no, no
no,
buts.
no, no. Yeah, I don't know. It just makes me sad for people like Onyx who probably could have done a lot better if they had stuck around.
Yeah,
Who I couldn't stand was Jarvis. Surprisingly, I thought I was gonna love Jarvis, and Jarvis seems really strong, and probably is and would have been for different reasons. But um, I was over Jarvis real quick. I'll be honest.
yeah. There was there was something about Jarvis that I liked really, really early on, and then the further we went, it just kind of I don't know how to explain it. She did bug after a while, or they did bug after a while.
Yeah,
It was like they were doing a character all the time.
which is interesting because I think he went home like episode 4.
Yeah, and you know what? It felt like it was so much further. Like when I was look, reviewing the episodes prior to us recording, I was like,
Mhm.
really? They went home that early? That felt like so
Yeah,
far into the competition.
I know. I know. Um, yeah, I was I was okay with Jarvis leaving. I was not okay with the fact that it was between Jarvis and JK, and then we had to keep JK because between the two, give me Jarvis. But
Right.
I was okay with letting Jarvis go. Let's talk about storylines because this season pushed a lot of different storylines, and I feel like they
Very
were
obviously.
really, yeah, they were really forced. Like, and this
Mhm.
whole like we're forcing somebody to have a conversation in the cauldron at the same point in every episode. Like, we get it. Like, if like the formula is there, it doesn't feel natural at all. It feels weird. I don't like it.
I wonder if that has anything to do with the what did we learn in the Last Supper, that the Boulets themselves were actually directing episodes. I wonder if that's why there was that really weird force shift.
Maybe I'm not sure. Um, but it just I don't know. It just felt ridiculous. Um, some of the main storylines that I appreciated, I guess, or at least felt like they were rooted in something really happening, were obviously Neo and Orgotics, whatever that is, go
Situation.
situationship. Um, and Throb and Blackberries back and forth drama.
I'm trying to remember what that was over.
Me
Why
too.
were they fighting? Everything else felt very fake. Like everything having to do with JK felt very fake, or just ridiculous that JK was upset about it.
Yeah. JK and Throb had it out a lot too. And I don't,
Yeah, and it was over nothing. It was like it was over like JK's perception of people being mean to them when
yeah.
they were just as obnoxious and rude in the first place, like to start it.
And I feel like most of that wouldn't have even emerged if they hadn't forced them to talk about it in the cauldron.
Right. Because and even when they did talk, when Throb and JK talked, Throb was just like, you just don't know when to stop. You don't know when to keep your mouth shut because
Yeah.
you provoke everybody. And she was even like, I'm trying to help you. I'm on your side. And I think that's also why everything felt really forced, was because I don't genuinely believe that any of the cast members are mean people
No,
or like super shady. So
no.
it looked really out of place for them to be that way, because I don't think they're like that. So to be
Yeah,
told
I
to be that,
agree.
they're like, well, I don't really know how to do that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Um, yeah, I don't know. And then Anna and Blackberry had a thing,
That's right, they did.
essentially for
Because
the same reason.
yeah, for the same reason as the JK bit. Like Anna got
Yeah.
her knickers in a twist and just couldn't let it go.
Stupid. Um, yeah, and it was like, well, we don't know why you're on Dragula. I don't know why you're on Dragula. It's like
Right.
so,
Why are you here? You're not a monster. Like, God, who cares? It's so pointless too. Like, think about it, it's just like, okay, even if they don't think you're a monster, you're still here. Like the Boulets obviously did. So what do you care?
exactly. I
Why does
know.
it matter so much to you? I just don't understand.
I just love Anna's demeanor. Anna's like the C3PO of Dragula season 5. Like,
Yes.
it's just happy to be there. It's doing their thing. Everyone's
I
super
am
rude to
fluent
them
in
for no
over
reason.
6 million forms of communication, and
Yeah,
I deserve to be here.
exactly. Stupid. Uh, and then the reunion, they're like, "Are you upset that you had to go home?" All that stuff. She's like, "No, I actually had quite a lovely time. I
Yeah,
really enjoyed." You know,
exactly.
and they're like, "But you had to get this tattoo, and then you still went home." They're like, "Yes, actually, I think it's a wonderful conversation piece, and
Which also irritated me because that was arguably the more disgusting tattoo, and she still got sent home, which was the whole purpose
I
of
agree.
the extermination. The exterminations made no sense to me this season,
Oh yes. In fact, that's
but they
good.
were cool.
I had it down on my list. Let's move. Let's just go there. Because the exterminations at first, I was like, okay, we're good. And I think in a lot of ways we went in the right direction compared to season 4 in Titans of where the exterminations had gone.
Yes, yeah.
You know, we opened
The
up their
outcomes
bungee
were always the
jumping.
weird part.
Yeah. Um, do you have a list of exterminations up?
I do.
I know
Unlock
the
my
ones
iPad.
I know the ones I liked, but there's a couple that I know I didn't, but I can't remember what they were.
So for the Terror in the Woods one was the jumping off a bridge or
Yeah.
bungee jumping off a bungee jumping, not just jumping. Boy, that'd be cool. The second one was the move worms and maggots from a bucket to a measuring device using your mouth. That was
Right.
disgusting.
Right. Loved that.
The third one was be tied to a bed and covered in cheese and covered in what were supposed to be wild brats, and they clearly weren't.
This was one of the lower ones. Yeah.
Yeah. As someone who has sold pets in a retail store, those were pet rats. Those were not wild super rats. Um, episode 4 was the lip sync. They say perform a rock and roll
Okay.
drag
Yeah.
show. It's a lip sync. Come on,
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Um, episode 5, a raunchy American inspired tattoo.
Uh-huh.
That's interesting that they put American inspired when those are the two foreign queens, or two of the 3 foreign queens.
That's so true. I didn't even think about it.
Episode 6 was hooked up to a birthing simulator and outlast the other contestant.
Loved that one.
The ultraviolet umbras one was that was the electric fences. That was
Yeah, I
cool.
liked that one a
And kind
lot.
of brutal, but
It was
cool.
brutal.
And then we had in pairs of 2 fight head to head and knock each other down using pugil. Is somebody saying that? Pugil sticks?
Yeah, those are stupid. I
That
hated
was
that whole
that.
thing.
That was very mid for me. I didn't like them. And then we had the Last Supper and the finale.
Yeah, okay. So for me, I think it was the rats and the Pugil sticks is the one I think I was forgetting. I remember hating that one because it's stupid. Like they used to throw
Yeah,
people in mud and just let them beat the shit.
right.
um,
And
and
the
then
problem
there,
with all of these was that even if they did beat the other person, they were still there. Like it didn't matter.
so yeah, and I think the one that really sticks out is the one between Neohuru and Anaphylactic for me because to me, oh, and you know what? And the Pugil sticks because Neo got her ass kicked in that extermination
Yes. Yeah, she did.
and probably should have been exterminated based on how the rules were explained.
Hmm.
No? Yes?
Yeah, because there's no point to doing an extermination if you're just gonna pick whoever's part of your storyline or your front runner anyway. So why do it?
Because the problem seems to be with the Boulets, love them, but
Drag them.
they it's like they can't check a bias and they can't not think of
Absolutely.
everything.
Yeah. They they go into judging, I feel, a lot as fans and
Uh-huh.
can't not be fans when looking at them objectively.
Yeah, I agree.
That was my problem with them the whole season. Almost everything having to do with BlackBerry. Not that BlackBerry didn't do well, but BlackBerry got so many passes and like extra points because they're just like, we just love what they do. It's like, okay, but did you love what they did in this challenge? Because you shouldn't have.
I stand by
Pissed me
BlackBerry,
off.
but
No, don't get me wrong. I think BlackBerry did do a lot of really pulled off some really cool looks and did well. I just I don't think that when they were judging compared to everybody else that they looked at her objectively, which was frustrating. Not to discount BlackBerry. I think BlackBerry is a great performer and she did bring some really cool stuff. But I don't think that she deserved as much praise as she got and compared to other contestants in certain weeks.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just
Uh,
not jumping on that train.
who should?
Let the train leave the station, girl.
I stand by. I think Blackberry deserved to be top four. We'll talk about it, but I just. But yeah, the exterminations for me, I think, or at least in the step of the right direction. I mean, comparatively, but it seems like the limits are just clearly there, and then sometimes we're not even trying. Like,
Yeah, or like the absolute joke of Jarvis putting Orgotic into the extermination, but there was no way they were going to send Orgotic home
yeah,
on like
so
episode 2. Like,
so I love that's a fantastic point. I almost completely forgot about this. So I love the whole concept of the key in life and death. They've been bringing it back every time, which is great. What is the point of it? Because unless you're saving
right,
yourself, it really doesn't do anything. You
right.
know?
And I feel like of all competitions, you should save it to keep it to save yourself. Like Jarvis could have used that.
Yeah. Um, it doesn't make any sense. Because then, you're just gonna put, oh, I'm gonna put the top competitor, I'm gonna show that I mean business, but they're not gonna do anything.
Right.
It doesn't mean any. There was no way. Was it Orgotic? There was no way
Yeah.
Orgotic was going home that day.
Yeah.
Never in a
And their
million years.
reasoning is always the same for doing this. Well, I'm gonna show the other people in the competition that I'm serious. It doesn't matter what the other people in the competition think of you. It matters what the Boulets think of you.
Yeah,
And they're not going to just eliminate one of their top people because you meant business that week. Like, get a grip. And they
yeah,
always say people like in other. I feel like in other competition shows where this has happened too. Like that always happens. Like, well, I'm going to show the other contestants. Who cares what the other contestants think?
yeah,
You're all vying for the same thing. It doesn't matter if you have their respect, just do it.
yeah. And it also, and the whole threat of putting them up for extermination. It's like, well, at some point, everybody's up for extermination.
Mm,
So they never let a season go where nobody's up for extermination. Like everybody does it at some point, often multiple
yeah.
times, for one reason or another, whether they're really in danger of going home or not. So again, so what's the point? Like, what does this say? It doesn't say anything to the other competitor. It doesn't say
Right.
anything to it doesn't do anything.
It maybe creates drama, but really didn't in this case because Orgotic really didn't care. Like, it was like, whatever.
Yeah. It's it doesn't work out. And I think that's
You know
where
what would make it more interesting is if instead of having the person they chose just added to the two, just make them one of the two and someone else gets saved from being
yeah.
eliminated. That would make it somewhat more interesting. Still stupid because they're still not going to pick their strongest person, but it stirs things up a little bit.
Yeah. I mean it's the key in life and death, right? So what really is the death part? I think honestly it should be sudden death. You either use it to save yourself or the person you choose leaves.
Ooh, that'd be fierce.
Boom.
That'd be cool. But then they'd have to come up with a whole new storyline because there's a chance they lose someone that you really like.
I know that's why they're not gonna do it.
Right. But that's the game. Like it's supposed to be high stakes, right? You're supposed to feel that thump in your chest that like, oh my God.
I mean, Drag Race would do
Mm-hmm.
it. And they have done it.
Yeah, but RuPaul is not typically a fan of the contestants that are on each season.
No, RuPaul doesn't even
She
know
can't
that.
even remember their names. She didn't even know Jinx's name. Come on.
And this is where we're going to stop for part one. We will finish our conversation in part two, which will drop next week. Thank you guys so much for listening and or watching. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our ongoing coverage of Dragula, Drag Race, or any of your other favorite programs. And also make sure to like and comment and do all that stuff. We like to engage with people, so if you want to do that, feel free to. And with that being said, as always, thank you for watching highlights, and you'll get part 2 next week.